What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today is day 28 of all Imperial Beer Theme Month here on the channel. And the beer I'm reviewing today once again comes from the Weyerbacher Brewing Company, and they are out of Easton, Pennsylvania, and this is their Insanity, the 2024 release. So this is an ale aged on oak. It comes in at 13.3% alcohol by volume, 34 IBUs at the time of review. This bottle is just under 2.5 months old. So if you've been following the channel over the past 6 months or so, you know that I have been revisiting a lot of classic Weyerbacher beers, and that's because here in the Buffalo, New York area, and I guess New York State as a whole, Weyerbacher has returned their distribution, which I love. Weyerbacher, I feel, is one of those underrated old school breweries that, you know, they went through some issues over the past 5 years, bankrupt a couple times in the whole nine, but they're back stronger than ever. I think this is either the 6th or 7th beer that I'm reviewing in the past 6 months from them, and all of them have been, at the very least, good. Some of them just amazing. And this, full disclosure, is one of my favorite beers from them. So essentially, this is their Blithering Idiot, which is an English barley wine, and they age it in oak barrels. And this year, or I guess last year at this point, in 2024, they actually aged it in Willett bourbon barrels. So the base Blithering Idiot is 11.1%. This is 13.3%, so a bit of a step up ABV-wise, and I've always preferred this one to the base Blithering Idiot. I reviewed the base Blithering Idiot late last year, and I gave it a 4.15, a really good English style barley wine. However, the nose was better than the taste, and it's always been that way, and I've always preferred this one. I think the oak kind of cuts the body a bit because I've always found it a little bit too syrupy, and I never had that issue with this one. And then on top of it, I just think the barrel adds another dimension. So I've always enjoyed this one. I am so stoked that it is back. And not only that, but it's back in New York State. Shout out to Chris over at Brewed and Bottled, my favorite local bottle shop. He got this and the Sunday Morning Stout in. Already reviewed the Sunday Morning Stout, so we're gonna review this one today. I'm using this 5th frame glass because this is the same glass that I reviewed the Blithering Idiot in, and I wanted to make sure that we keep it consistent in terms of the style of glass. So let's give it a pour here. Yeah, that has that like melted down caramel color. We're not gonna go all the way to the top, something like that, so I can get my schnoz in there to smell it properly. And yeah. So what does this look like? Well, this looks like Blithering Idiot. It's going to probably look very similar to that beer, maybe a little bit lighter. Yeah, it has more of this like mahogany kind of like, yeah, ruby red color, almost verging into like a very light brown. Had about a finger of a straight up khaki colored head. There are nice alcohol legs around the glass, the inside of the glass that is. The head looks velvety smooth and just like creamy looking. But I'd say if you're going for an English style barley wine aged in bourbon barrels, this would be a beer that is appropriate from the appearance standpoint. Let's get a nose. Yep. So I actually, for the first time, probably ever on my channel, maybe like the 3rd time, I actually went back and watched that Blithering Idiot review, even though it was just a couple months ago. You know, I review so many beers that sometimes I forget specifics. So I wanted to see what I said about that one, and basically what I just told you is that it's a good but not great English style barley wine to me personally. I think the body's a little bit too syrupy and like thick, which is a rarity to say on my channel. Then on top of that, the nose is always better than the aroma, but the aroma has like toasted, I said in that review, toasted rustic white bread, unsweetened cherry cordial, things of that nature, caramel, toffee. Everything's in here that I just said, but there's this big blast of like vanilla oak and bourbon. Oh man, there's a huge waft of like brown sugar as well. It smells a little boozy. Smell it, a little bit of ethanol like kind of singeing the nostrils. But yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's that complex caramelized sugar complex there. That was terrible what I just said. A complex caramelized sugar complex. No, Joe. No. Complex caramelized sugar characteristic here. There's everything, like I said, brown sugar, caramel, toffee, even a little bit of butterscotch. But that toasted kind of rustic white bread is more of like a rustic brown bread in here. I'm struggling to speak. This is going to be a horrible review. Strap in. A 37-minute review. There's something specific here. I'm almost getting, I know it's going to sound weird, a little bit of like a birch beer or like a root beer kind of quality. It has like a spiciness here, and that's probably coming from the bourbon. Yeah, almost like a slight minty kind of like sarsaparilla-esque kind of, yeah, spiciness. That's interesting. I don't remember that in this one. Dark fruits galore from, oh, that's another thing I said. I said golden raisins. Not going to say that in here because I'm not really getting the golden raisins in the nose, but I could see regular raisins, you know, your figs, your dates, your plums, things of that nature. Now as I've smelled it enough, like the booziness is starting to die down and it's just becoming this rich, malty, complex beer. And it just smells wonderful. Yeah, I want to get into it. Cheers, everybody. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So I didn't mention it, I should have, but I'm not a great beer tuber, as you guys know. The last time I had this one was like 2014, so it's been over 10 years. And the reason for that is, you know, back in like the mid to late 2010s, I was just trying everything. I wasn't revisiting a lot of beers. That was like the early age of me drinking craft beer. Like the early 2010s, I would, you know, buy a 4-pack of this and drink this over the course of a couple months, maybe even return to it. Once the mid 2010s hit and a lot of breweries were releasing all kinds of beers, I was just pretty much buying singles of everything and not revisiting a lot of beers. And then Weyerbacher went away in like the late 2010s into the early 2020s. So I'm very happy they're back, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. I might go buy a couple bottles and throw in my cellar. I know I've said I wouldn't do that, but I think for a beer like this, I don't know if I'll see it next year. I don't know if they'll release it next year. I hope Weyerbacher does well and we see more of their beer, but you never do know. Anyway, going back for another sip. That first sip was superb. So the body here, right? It's still huge. It's full body. And it has a kind of a slight syrupy quality. It's like oily and slick, but it's not as big as the 11.1% base to me. That is definitely syrupy. This is kind of like that, but cut a little bit. And that's what I always like about this. I always felt the barrel cut that kind of huge body. And I know that sounds weird for me to say because I a lot of times spend a lot of time on the body. Specifically if it's really thin. And I don't mind it in this situation. This is what I prefer over the base, just being honest with you. The mouthfeel has a moderate carbonation, but it's very, it's weird. It's somehow effervescent and kind of like spritzy on the palate, but at the same time smooth and creamy. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. The taste though, everything I said about the Blithering Idiot is here. Tons of malty goodness from your darker fruits, your raisins, figs, dates, plums, you know, even like a little bit of like a dark cherry or like a dark grape. On top of that, though, there's that rustic brown bread, not white bread, rustic, like slightly toasted brown bread for me in this one. There is a ton of caramelized sugars here. You could say pretty much anything. Yes, sugar babies, sugar daddies, raisinets, the whole spiel I give you with English style barley wine is here in spades. The difference between this, though, and the base is that the second half of the palate introduces the barrel for me, and it's vanilla, it's oak, and it's bourbon, and it's very intense. It's actually very intense on my palate. It's spicy. It's the main thing I'm getting from the bourbon is this spiciness that again, it's sarsaparilla, it's root beer, it's birch beer, and it just has that spiciness that I'd associate with those types of soda pops. And in addition to that, yeah, the vanilla and the bourbon's there for sure, but that spiciness is the thing that really sticks with me. There's a moderate oak tannin dryness in addition to just a dryness probably from the alcohol. So this finish is firmly dry. This is almost, I won't say bone dry, but it is firmly dry on the palate, which is nice because the first 3/4, maybe 4/5 of the palate is just pure, sweet, rich decadence. And then on the finish, it's like, whoa, let's try this out. Let's make it drinkable, not cloying, and that's what it does. There's a mild bitterness, not much to speak of. This is a very, again, this is a nightcap. This is a sipping beer. There is, on the finish too, it hits again, but it's brown sugar and caramel. And that could be the bourbon, but that brown sugar characteristic is really omnipresent. It's like one of the main players in this one. And it's really nice because I don't get brown sugar to that intensity unless a beer is brewed with brown sugar, and even then I usually don't. So it's nice. This is really good. It's an absolutely delicious beer. Definitely better than the base for me personally, and that might not be the same for you, especially if you don't like bourbon barrels or oak barrels or anything like that. But I'm always going to, if you put two beers in front of me and they're the same beer, but one's barrel aged and one's not, I'm always taking the barrel aged one, especially if it's an English style barley wine, because that's my preference. And in this case, this is indeed my preference. Somehow I spilled some on the table, really not sure how. The alcohol. In the nose, like I said, the ethanol, yeah, it was there. On the palate, not really. Again, might be some of that dryness on the finish. That is the alcohol character. There is a huge warming in my chest. This is a nice warming, perfect. I think it's like 12 degrees outside Fahrenheit, and it's super cold out. This is going to warm me up the rest of the night. So I think it was a perfect choice. I will say, and I always got to keep it 100 with you fine folk out there, this is not as good as I remember it. Not by a substantial margin, but I'd always give this one anywhere from like a 4.5 to like a 4.75, depending on the vintage. I think because I've tried so many barley wines over the years, both regular, English, American, barrel-aged, everything under the sun, that this one doesn't hit me in the feels as much as it used to, but it's still fucking delicious. And it's scary drinkable at 13.3%. Yeah, huge warming in the chest, big complex flavors, but it's pretty well balanced. It doesn't drink like it's 13.3, I'd guess 12 at the most. It's a really nice beer. So I'm going to give Insanity, the 2024 release from Weyerbacher, a low 4.5. We'll go 4.4. I think that's fair. So like I said, usually the lowest I give this one is a 4 or 5, so a little bit lower, but that doesn't mean it's not delicious. A 4.4 out of 5 is still like an excellent, just an amazing beer. It just isn't world class anymore for me. But again, that was me probably more than anything back then, just not having a ton of barley wines in 2013 and 2014, and then finding this and being like, wow, this is delicious. Where can I get more of this? All right, so 4.4 out of 5, fantastic beer. Price point. I've talked about this in the other Weyerbacher reviews, but their price points used to be great. I used to call them Lagunitas of the East Coast because their price points were insane. But everything nowadays is expensive. The base Blithering Idiot, anywhere between $16 to $18 a 4-pack, depending upon where you bought it. A couple people mentioned the same thing around that price point. This, I don't know exactly for 4-packs. I didn't see 4-packs. I bought this at the aforementioned brewed and bottled. I paid like $5.50 for that bottle, which I would assume means 4-packs are in like the $20 range. A-okay with me. A $20 4-pack for something that's 13.3% English barley wine aged in bourbon barrels. Yes, all day long. That's $5 a bottle, and I have no issues with that. Even if this was upwards of $6 to $7 a bottle nowadays, that's still a great deal for the ABV and everything that's going on with it. Availability, this is where it gets kind of wonky. I don't really know with Weyerbacher. I just know over the past 6 to 8 months, Weyerbacher has started to creep back in the Western New York area, more specifically Buffalo, New York, but I think New York State as a whole. If you see Weyerbacher stuff, you might see this one. They released this and the Sunday Morning Stout that are reviewed recently for Black Friday of 2024, and both of them made distro here in New York State. Doesn't mean they're going to make distro wherever you are, but if you do see Weyerbacher stuff, see if you find this one on the shelves somewhere. It should still be on the shelves, or you maybe saw it at the December into early January. But this is what I would definitely run out and go grab if you like barrel-aged English barley wines. It's a great one. It's not, again, world-class. It's not my favorite, but I think for the availability, the price point, and you take the whole package into consideration, it's a really damn fine beer. So if you've had this one before, whether it was the 2024 release or earlier vintages, post in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. What's your preference between this and the Blithering Idiot? Again, this is definitely a quarter point. I'm giving this basically a quarter point better than the Blithering Idiot. Still, Blithering Idiot is good. This is just substantially better for what my palate craves out of this style. And I just think the barrel aging just works for me personally. So apologize for the longer review, or the longer reviews over the past, forever. But recently with this all Imperial Beer Theme Month, I have spending 14, 15, 16 minutes of review, and you guys are still watching. It's pretty wild, but I do know I ramble a lot and whatnot, but it's the Beer Patrol. We ramble here. It's story time. We talk about stuff. It's not just let me focus on the beer for 5 minutes and that's it. However, if you're somebody who likes that kind of content, you can just kind of chop out like the first 3 minutes of every review and like the last 3 to 4 minutes. And then at that point, it turns into a 6, 7, 8 minute review, which I guess some people enjoy. So anyway, I'm shutting this one down. That was day 28. We have 3 days less. This is like, I've probably misspoke like a half dozen times in this review, and it's terrible. But we have 3 days left. I'm not even hammered yet. 3 days left of All Imperial Beer Theme Month, and I'm looking forward to the last 3 days. Like I said, I really don't plan out when I'm drinking, but for the last day, I am planning that out, so you will see that. Anyway, I am shutting this one down. Cheers, everybody, to the next one.